Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, City Club members, students, educators, and community members joining us today. Welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Zoe, a junior at Solon High School and a member of the City Club's Youth Forum Council. Today, we are here to discuss youth in American politics, shaping the future. From social media advocacy to boots-on-the-ground campaign work, today's youth are more than just future voters. They're shaping the present and future of American democracy. Today's forum will focus on how youth are using social media for activism, overcoming barriers to political participation, and making an impact at both local and national levels. We'll also examine how young people can educate themselves on key issues and develop critical thinking skills to navigate today's complex political environment. Our esteemed guests joining us on stage today are Dr. Christina Collins, Executive Director for Honesty for Ohio Education, and Richard Starr, Council Member, Cleveland City Council, Ward 5. Our discussion today will be moderated by Youth Forum Council Member Luke Kim, senior from Solon High School. Thank you all for joining us today.
Dr. Collins, Councilman Starr, thank you for being here. We're very excited to kick off the new school year with our first Youth Forum, which is sold out, by the way. Yeah. For those in the room who may be unfamiliar, perhaps starting with Dr. Collins, it'd be great if you could share just a little bit about what you do and maybe how it affects the high schoolers in the room.
Awesome. Christina Collins. My background is in education. I was a high school English teacher. I was a district administrator, and I served on the State Board of Education. I was elected member of that from 2021 until the end of 2023. Now I am executive director with Honesty, and we are a coalition, a statewide coalition of 70 organizations that works to protect honest and inclusive education for all students in Ohio. So the way that impacts you is directly. Every day we fight bad policy, we fight for good policy, we teach people how to engage and testify at the school board all the way to the State House so that we can protect honest and inclusive education for all students that are in safe, engaging, and challenging learning environments.
Councilman Starr? What do you do?
Council members, tell Charlie's life he owed me. I currently serve on Cleveland City Council. For the past 16 years before I became a member on council, I worked for Boys and Girls Clubs. So I was able to work with youth from the age of 6 to 18 years old to be able to be a mentor, leader, advocate for youth. And now I currently take that type of background to Cleveland City Council, where we write policies, pass budgets, and also work on city and residents issues. So I'm just an advocate for what's right, and AKA Mr. Stand on Business.
I love it. We titled this forum Youth in American Politics. How can the youth in this room get involved with your dimension of politics? Dr. Collins?
If you pass the table outside, we have a table and there's a QR code. One very direct way that you can get involved at any age is to join our youth advisory team that we're kicking off in 2025. So scan that QR code. It's a simple Google form to enter your information, and as soon as we've gotten through elections and the lame duck session that's coming up here in Ohio, we're going to be kicking that off. That's going to be a great opportunity for us to listen to you about what you need, your experiences in school, so that we can do a better job with the fight that we have at the state level, and so we can engage you in that fight as well. So number one thing would be to scan that QR code. I also invite you to, at any time, Visit honestyforohioeducation.org. We have an amazing legislation tracker that tells you what's going on in education policy in Ohio. So if you're interested in that, that's another way that you can get engaged with us as well.
How can youth be engaged with you?
Youth, you can be engaged with me at R1CHARDSTARR. That's my Instagram. Also, you can be engaged with me by just getting involved. Before I continue with that answer to that question, I definitely want to acknowledge some different leaders in the room that I want you to understand the reason why I acknowledge them. First, we have the longest serving council president in Cleveland City Council history, Mr. George Forbes, in the room. Also in the room, we do have our current Cleveland City Council President Blaine Griffin. And I can't go through without naming all my colleagues. The Dean, Mike Polenzig, Councilman Kevin Kelly, Councilman Chris Harsh, Councilman Kevin Caldwell, Councilwoman Jenny Spence, Big Smooth, AKA Councilman Anthony Harrison. But then also you have our state representative, Terrence Upchurch, and our next Cuyahoga County Council, District 10, Michael Hauser. And Councilman Joe Jones just walked in. So what I want you to understand is the way you get involved is come have these conversations with them. These are people who does the work for you in your different city of Cleveland. These are the ones that help make sure we get funding to our neighborhoods for our youth. These are the individuals that are leading. So what I ask people when they want to get involved, you got to open up your mouth. You got to get involved. You got to attend a meeting and be present in everything that you do. It's not just about making a status or a post. It's also about doing the work offline, which takes a conversation and meeting. And I'm sure all of these wonderful leaders that I just mentioned to you will be open to be able to mentor you, teach you, and let you get involved and learn about politics.
You have a lot of friends. I want to talk a little bit about education. For a lot of us, that's where we spend the bulk of our time at. But a lot of the different political processes either influence our education or our education influences the way we view politics. Could you guys share a little bit about the way education is being manipulated by policy, perhaps? It's a little deep.
You want me to start?
Sure.
I'm happy to start. It's in our name, Honesty in Ohio Education. So something happened in 2016 that really changed the climate of education, and I'll let you think about what might have happened. But I really see this as before 2016, the battles in education were more about data, they were about testing, it was about how can we raise test scores, what do we need to do for interventions? And then 2016 was kind of a shifting point, and all of a sudden, we were talking it was fire and rhetoric, and it was more about the context of what we're teaching, what we're actually teaching students. That's when we started seeing book bans, that's when we started hearing about CRT. And the shift that happened, I think, was really an attempt to erase parts of our humanity as people. So since then, my scope, from my perspective, it's been about getting rid of LGBTQ books, because if we get rid of LGBTQ books, we no longer have to talk about LGBTQ people. They don't exist. Let's get rid of Black authors, because if we get rid of Black authors, we don't have to talk about Black authors anymore, and we don't have to talk about the Black experience. So in my mind, that's really been the shift in education. And again, that goes back to our work. My work as the State Board of Education member was to prevent that from happening. It was that protection of honest inclusivity, because how we teach our children, especially in K-12, that's our future as a nation. And we were talking beforehand about, my understanding of public education. Now, there's choice in Ohio, private schools, there's charter schools, there's lots of choice. But my understanding of public education as a core component of who we are as Americans is that it's the place where we come together for our commonalities. It's the place where we come together to talk about the things that we have common as people. And so when we're graduating students into the world, they have that baseline of understanding, of empathy for others, because we have this sort of common identity. And that is just being eroded all the time by policy right now, particularly at our Ohio State House. There are a lot of harmful and hate-filled attacks on honest and inclusive education that just keep happening over time. And it takes all of us in this room, including those of you who aren't even old enough to vote yet, it takes all of us to use our voices to prevent that erasure of human beings from happening. That's really what drives me to do this work. And I hope if that resonates with you, again, regardless of your age, that you'll take the opportunity to reach out to your representatives, to reach out to the State House, to testify when you can, whether that's at your local school board or at the State House, because student voices particularly are the most important in that conversation, because you're the ones directly impacted every single day by what these policies are attempting to do and who they're trying to erase from the classrooms.
How does policy impact education?
Wow. Similar to what Dr. Collins just mentioned, I would just take it by show of hands. Who in here in the room can call their mom or their guardian and convince them to do something without telling all the truth? Right? Okay. So that same platform that you have, or that way you are able to persuade your parent, you need to persuade them about your education. So one of the things that we deal with is not organizing. So when you start thinking about people getting elected into different seats versus the actual amount of people that turn out and show up to vote, that is very important. So the stuff that you're learning in school, the stuff that you are experiencing, you need to use that cell phone, that iPhone or Android, to do the research and get the knowledge and get the information, but also encourage yourself, your peers to get involved, but also hold your parents accountable to make sure they vote and then fighting. Nothing changed without organization and leaders speaking up. So if you have an education systems in place and you don't like the curriculum that's going on, imagine if you pick up the phone and told your parents about what's going on and what you want to see change, and then they showing up to the school board meetings, and then they started holding people accountable. Just think about the impact that we can have in our schools, the things that we need to have. When it comes to public education, it is not being funded the correct way. They want to pass levies and make it, oh man. They want to put levies on the ballot and make us vote for these levies, but not understanding that these levies have a downfall because it impacts homeowners. And oftentimes it's the homeowners who are on a fixed income, who got their houses at a good rate. Now you want more taxes for them, but then you look at where some of our funding that's supposed to come from the state goes into private education, other different education systems that is not deemed eligible for public education. So until we get up and say we're going to vote a slate, until we get up and say we're going to vote every year in Ohio, until we get up and say no matter what your record, your background, second chance, you can register and vote and show up, your voice will not be heard. So it takes us young leaders to be able to take a step forward and working to start organizing now, because you're not the future, you are the present, and your actions today is going to speak volumes about what we need to do tomorrow.
I want to steer the conversation back to the youth. What, if there are the barriers that face or oppose the youth as they try to involve in politics, and how can we address them?
Oh, that's a great question. So the barriers that you deal with is just lack of knowledge. You know, lack of knowledge. I recall when I was 27 in 2017, when I decided one day, I woke up saying I'm running for Cleveland City Council. It was just like that. It was April. I called my mentor. He said no. My mentor is Mr. Ron Soder over at my pops right there. He said no. But what he was telling me was no. He said, go back and finish school. You got enough on your plate. You're working your way up, but you need to finish school. And running for council, you ain't going to finish school. He didn't say it like that. He just told me no. So what you gotta realize is you have to understand, get the knowledge. There's no sense of you not knowing what's going on when you look at how much screen time you use on your phone. If we Googled and did some research, get the accurate information, find out, ask questions. Every council member here that I just mentioned to you, they host community meetings in your neighborhood. Are you at that meeting? Are you talking to that council member about some issues that you may see in the neighborhood that you need their help on? When it comes time to do things, and you always got to understand a relationship is not just give, give, give. It's a partnership, it's an agreement, it's an understanding, it has trust, it has respect. So say, for instance, if everybody in here say, hey, we like the work that you do. We come into your meetings. We're hearing about the development. We're hearing about the stuff that you do at the school with us, how you support us and making sure we have the funding that we do. Oftentimes when you say you lack something, especially in Cleveland City Council has to write the legislation, pass it, make sure it's written the correct way. I don't care what you see on the news. Cleveland City Council is running the city because we have to do the hard work, and we take the calls, we take the issues. So what I urge young people to do is get involved with your local government. Find out what they actually do. They will get you on the schedule, they will get you out in the community, but you gotta wanna work. It ain't just give me your problem and then let me go figure it out while you go play on the games and chill. I need you to be able to be boots on the ground so you can be able to move into a position similar to what I did. They told me no, I told them yes, and I came back and said I'm gonna be here, and I became an elected official today.
Wonderful. The message I took away was that the youth should get that knowledge.
Yeah, get the knowledge, and off the knowledge, you also gotta have the trust. Sometimes you lack the knowledge of understanding how government works. If you remember in 4th grade, you got the judicial branch, you got the legislative branch, and hey, you got the executive branch. Well, council is the legislative branch. We make the laws. So when you think about state reps, when you think about Congress people, we're the lawmakers. Then when you start thinking about the executive branch, you get the president, the governor, the mayor. Guess what? It has to go through the process of each branch of government. Obviously, the judicial branch is the ones who hold you accountable, the court systems and things like that. So when things are introduced, it goes through this process where you need the lawmaker to make sure your tax dollars that you are paying is getting into the right neighborhood. So leveraging those relationships to get what you need for your neighborhood is nothing but a relationship. Politics will do you if you don't do politics. Politics is what happens behind the scene before it gets presented to you on TV. So if you're not in the community, if you're not at those meetings, or you're not packing the house about issues that you stand for, what change is gonna happen? Nothing. Until you step up, say this is what I wanna see happen, and that's how you get things done.
Dr. Collins, we need to get that knowledge. So from your background, how should the youth get that knowledge?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say you should go to honestyforohioeducation.org
There we go.
and use our legislation tracker, because it's a fantastic resource where we list the bills, we talk about talking points, what are the dangers of the various bills. So there's that. I also want to add to this that there is an almost intentional confusion when it comes to how bills become laws. Things happen so fast. You get an announcement on Friday that a bill is going to be heard in committee the following week, and you've got 2 days to turn around and figure out how to do a testimony. Like, it is intentionally challenging for anyone to follow what is happening at the State House when it comes to legislation. So I would also, in addition to getting that knowledge and going to honestyforohioeducation.org, I would also encourage you to find mentors. That's come up a couple of times. Find mentors who can help you figure out how to navigate that confusion. But for the youngest in the room, find fellow students who care about the same things that you care about and work together to organize yourselves. Again, yeah. I'm going to use this example from when I was a kid, and there was a student protest because the cafeteria workers weren't using gloves at the time. We have much bigger issues. But I remember a student protest where students, they tried to walk out of school and all of that stuff. But I'm saying that to say if you organize, you can be a 7th grader. I mean, you can be young and get together with people that care and organize that way and do things. So get a mentor, get the information that you need. Again, it is confusing. It's very confusing. Your local district is the most direct impact that you can make, because you can get fellow students together to go to your local school board meeting, and you can testify at your local school board about issues that directly impact you every day to people that have a direct impact on the policies that influence that. So these are just a couple of ways to overcome some of those barriers.
On this idea of the youth educating themselves, I've heard some archaic stories about people getting print newspaper. I don't do that. I'm on Instagram.
Follow me.
How should we view the news and the opinions that we see on social media sites like Instagram?
Oh, that's easy. It's called fact checking. Fact checking. If you just see it on social media, if you can't find research on it, it ain't true.
Oh.
I can make a video and say everything is so great, but if you ain't been able to find it nowhere else but on my page, or people sharing it that don't understand, it's not true. So what I tell you is, one, young people, do not ever allow somebody to make you feel that you're being disrespectful because you don't agree with them. We ain't doing that. That's outdated. Just because I have a different view, just because I have different experiences, just because I have a different thought, that don't mean I'm being disrespectful. I want you to give me more facts and supporting documents so I can understand why things are done this way. And that is called leadership and having courage. So what I want you to understand, just because it's a meme, that don't mean it's actually true. So utilize that research. Everyone learn how to do research. We can find the information on stuff that we want to share that's negative. We can get all the facts on that, but when it comes to impacting government policy, we say, no, well, that's not something interesting. No, that should be in your group chat. Upcoming elections should be in your group chat. You should be in your neighborhood saying, let's make sure everyone in my neighborhood is voting. Because it's an important election, and even though I'm a child, it impacts my neighborhood too. It impacts what type of funding your school is going to get. It impacts what type of stuff is done with sports. Now, I'm a big stickler of sports. I have a sports management background education degree, but also I understand that we don't fund our sports from youth as the way they are. It's all dependent on our parents to cover it on fixed incomes at times to take care of all of their children. I'm the second oldest of 6 children. My mama couldn't afford for me to get everything that I want. I couldn't get every pair of Jordan. I couldn't get every pair of shoes, on top of the cleats, on top of different things. But guess what? If we organize enough and we work together and we start fact-checking things, you'll find out what's really working and who's actually doing work and why they shouldn't be in those positions that they are in.
You want to add?
Yeah. I think what I would add is that we all need to be better critical consumers of what is fed to us through social media, because we all need to be aware that through AI and all the things that are going on behind the scenes, you are being targeted with messages.
Yes.
And those messages are making you think in an echo chamber that the world is a certain way when maybe it's not. So I think that is if you go on Google and you Google something, let's just use Project 2025 as an example.
Just a small example.
Let's just say
Yes.
that you go Google that. If you Google that, your Google suggestions from now on are going to be very targeted at a specific ideology. It's the same thing that happens. I mean, I hate it when this happens. This scares the crap out of me when I'm talking about something and I get on Facebook and there's an ad for it. And I'm like, how did that just happen? I think that is the most important thing for every young person in this room to understand is you are targeted, and you have to be critical of what information is targeted at you.
Being critical, fact-checking, those are things that we as young people can do. Let's talk about the educators. What's their role in informing the upcoming generations about how to deal with contentious issues?
That's a tough job. You know, a lot of people are not signing up to be educators no more. So we need you all to be able to go into that different profession. So one of the things we have to do is also encourage our educators to speak up on things that they know is not right. They go through these different contract negotiations. The school board is putting this contract together, but then the curriculum is not something that the teachers actually believe is sometimes the best thing to be teaching. So we need to be, as students, organizing our teachers to speak up for us as well, to be able to get things in place that you need. One of the things I'm angry about is the cursive not being taught. Or I saw my signature. Like, I know we're moving away to this digital technology, but I need to learn how to write in cursive so I can have a signature. Those are valuable things that we do. I sign pieces of legislation every day. Imagine me just printing my name on there. Me and my colleagues would be like, wow, what's going on? But those are things that you got to do. You have to focus on changes that you see in your neighborhood, see inside your day-to-day life. So those things you want to encourage your teachers, but also organize, like you've been hearing us. Organize. Make sure your parents are involved. Get them involved. Like I told you, we can persuade our parents to do certain things that when I'm about to get these 10 days for fighting, that it really wasn't me. But when it comes time for us talking about our education or trying to get our teachers to do some things that you want, I've received calls from a parent just a week ago, and she was talking about the curriculum that the teacher is teaching. My kid is a little more far advanced. And the first thing they said, well, let's move her to a higher grade. She's like, no, that is not the case. I want her in her right grade. I just want to make sure the curriculum is a grade appropriate. I mean, one thing I tell you, we challenging the system, the status quo. I just seen CMSD, Cleveland Metropolitan School District, get rated a 3. But then when I break down their report card, when you're talking about literacy rate of around 35% are advanced at reading by the 4th grade, but 88% are going to the 4th grade. If only 35% of us is proficient in reading, and then all 88% of us is going to the 4th grade, where do I get that reading back? When do I get that learning back? No, because now the teachers are being told to teach for a test as well as not versus them being able to educate for life for you to understand. And that's the fight that we have to challenge, making sure our kids got it. But you can also look at a report card and see by the time they graduate, 26% of those students are ready for college, workforce, or military. If only 26% of us is ready when we graduate and we got 80% graduating, what are we dealing with? So I think school, education, violence is a direct correlation that we must stand up and say enough is enough. Let's make sure we get an education in 1st grade, kindergarten, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. I feel for a high school educator because if I get a student in 9th grade and they're so far behind and you want me to prepare them for life, I'm fighting an uphill battle in 4 years that I'm trying to fix when you got 5 years of learning loss. Those are the fight that we need to do. That's how we challenge the system. That's why we need to be voting. That's why we need to stand on business.
Dr. Collins, you've been an educator.
Yeah, and I'm going to be the first to say I'm not going to say here's another thing to add on to your plate if you're a teacher. And I'm curious how many teachers are in the room. Is there because I know we've got to have quite a few. Yes. That is one of the hardest jobs, and it's even more difficult, as you all know now. It's even more difficult because every day you have to question, am I saying the right thing? Is this going to get me in trouble? Can I do this? Can I teach this? Can I tell the kids this? Can I expose them to this? It's all hard. So I think what I would say to teachers, the best thing you can do is keep filtering through that noise and do what is in your heart, which is to do what's right by those students in your classroom every single day. So filter all the rest of the junk out and just focus. Just focus on this.
There are so many areas where youth can be involved in. Are there some where directing our efforts makes more sense, maybe that we should be involved in? How would you approach that when there are so many issues that we see around us?
I would say pick your passion. See something that you're really genuinely care about. Because if you're trying to do something that I care about and you really don't care about, you're just going to go to the first meeting and that's it. You know, find something that you really care about. If you really care about the school, lunches and the meals that you're getting served at school?
I do.
Right? You know, I used to love the little Tony's pizza you used to get. We used to have a cold line, all those different things. If that's something you care about as far as the nutrition, and you like, yo, we don't eat that type of food here, now you start finding other individuals in your class, in your grade, in your school, and you start getting together. So you started planning. Now you have a plan to be able to figure out what approach do we have. Start those group clubs, those block clubs, those different things. Find what you're passionate about. I'm passionate about youth. So you can find me at any school in Cleveland, speaking, talking. When it's graduation time, commencement time, I do about 7 different commencement speech. Come to the school, bring job opportunities at the graduation, even though sometimes I get pushed back. But I want to make sure we are prepared for life. But at the end of the day, I find out what I was passionate. If I was not serving as an elected official, I'd be somewhere working with youth, continuing my advocacy, my different work that I've done. So I always tell people, find what you're passionate about, and you'll never feel like you're doing work a day in your life.
I wanted to give you guys an opportunity before we move into the Q&A portion, if there's anything else you want to make sure that you say to everyone in this room.
I wasn't expecting that. I hope that what you take away from what we've said today is how important right now the youth are in this room. I hate, it sounds like hyperbolic, but our future is in your hands. So we need you all to get engaged, and we need you all to care and find your passions. And I used to say that if the adults would just get out of the way, the kids are ready to make a whole better world than what we just keep messing it up, all right? So I feel like if we just got out of the way and let you all, every group of youth, every new generation comes in with these new passions and energies and things that they care about. And I'm just excited. That's what gives me hope at the end of the day, is seeing how you all will come in and change this world in the future.
Wow. Tough act to follow behind. I would say go do everything you said you want to do. I think something that I look at history, so I am a millennial, so I do some reading, not just scrolling. I do read the books. That reading helps you out a lot. I'm telling you, one day you're going to thank me. What I mean by that is we live in a society where you got to look at the history. And when you talk about the silent generation, then you talk about the baby boomers, what you got to deal with, they always said the silent generation never gave it to the baby boomers. So the baby boomers holding on too long. So Gen X is like, it's our time. But then you get us millennials, we ain't waiting on nothing. It's our time right now. We just gonna take it. Then you got the Gen X's who trying to figure out where do they fit into the equation. So what I tell you to do is go do it. If you feel like it's an issue and you feel like you want to be changed, or if you feel like people are just holding on, ain't nothing wrong with challenging the system, but also understanding that you can be mentored too into those positions.
Good afternoon. My name is Aya Jafar, and I am a sophomore at Hawken Upper School and a member of the City Club's Youth Forum Council. Today, we've been enjoying a youth forum entitled Youth in American Politics, Shaping the Future, featuring Dr. Christina Collins, Executive Director for Honesty of Ohio Education, and Richard Starr, the council member of the Cleveland City Council Ward 5. Moderating today's conversation has been Youth Forum Council Vice President Luke Kim. We're about to begin the audience Q&A. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, students, educators, or those of you joining us via our webcast. We ask that your questions please be brief, to the point, and end in a question mark. If you are joining us via webcast and would like to ask a question, please text us at 330-541-5794, and we'll ask as time allows. At today's microphones are 2 of our Youth Forum Council members, Matthew and Minsong. Can we have our first question, please?
We have an online question. What are we doing in our inner city schools, the masses, to try and involve them in the voting process?
Oh, that's a great question. One thing I would say that what we've done, obviously, with this upcoming election, One thing I partner with CMSD is working with making sure anyone, as far as our youth that is about to be 18 and by November 4th or 5th to be able to vote in the election. One thing I am challenging also our schools is to be able to have student government become a big major issue in the schools. Creating the opportunity for student government to do one volunteer project a month, figuring out how can they get involved, having them come down to city council meetings, also making sure they understand what government looks like on paper, but also in reality. Because sometimes what you may learn about versus once you get into the role is very different. Because when I got in office, we did we had all the directors sit down and meet with us, talk about the department for about a week, and then as you know, it was sink or swim. So being able to give people the knowledge and understanding of how government works from a real life experience and working with the schools is very important.
Are you two at all alarmed by the gender polarization amongst political views in especially younger generations, millennials and Gen Zs?
I am not, and I go back to what I was saying earlier about targeted information. I was actually just listening to a webinar earlier that was talking about how particularly young men are being targeted with very extremist ideologies. So I'm not surprised. That's why I go back to it's so important for us to be critical consumers, particularly since we're spending hours and hours and hours on our devices every day. If those are going to have that kind of power over our brain space, then we need to make sure that we understand what's happening in that messaging and through those targeted ads and targeted information.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Pratt from Lutheran West, and as you briefly mentioned, that social media is it can be very helpful with politics, but it can also be very distracting and like addicting. What would you say is a good way to balance social media with like real life politics with youth?
Creating the balance. Follow me at. Make sure you follow me now. I'll follow back too. The way you create that balance is that the research that you do offline. So one of the things I try to do is share what I do daily at work. A lot of folks be like, what does council do? What do? They just wear suits. They just be down there just passing things. And do you really got a mind? Or you just want to part of good old boys crew? You just with them now? No, so what I try to do is share what I actually do on a day-to-day basis. Prime example today. This morning, I went to a ribbon cutting at NORAM Cold Storage. Before I went there, I went with USDA for a meat producing factory similar to Nestle and Tyson that's going to be on 55th and Central. Met with those individuals. Then I raced down here to sit on a city club. So I'm showing people different ways I'm in the community. We just got some streets resurfaced in the neighborhood. So I actually did a video talking about the street service program, what we had to do to get additional dollars from the administration to be able to put more streets together. Talk about the playgrounds upgrades that we do so people can understand the reality. So those are the stuff that I put out there outside of my memes of me having a good sense of humor, but also having people understanding like, hey, if you want me to do some work as a councilman, shoot me an email or call the office and we can get connected. But if you want to clown and crack jokes so I can put my phone back down, I might respond back and laugh at you in a DM too. So creating that balance to say we're human, but also understanding the systems and process in place to get things done.
I would add to that, sorry, yes. I would add, and somewhat of the opposite comment would be, we've got to put our phones down more often. We've got to get off the phones. I see it with my 14-year-old. Like she's lived through COVID times and COVID school years and Zoom and all of the things, and like the ability to talk to each other. We've kind of lost that. So and that is so hard to say. Like we've got to learn to put our phones down, but we really, it's unhealthy. Like And I feel it myself when I'm like, I'm doom scrolling, right? I'm looking at all the things that are just making me more and more angry and like, oh, this is happening and oh, this is happening. And then I'm just mad, and then I'm mad at my kids, and I'm mad at mad at all the time. And it's like, that's not good. That's not a good way to exist in the world. So I would encourage us all to, maybe recommit to having healthier habits when it comes to our social media.
Hi, I'm Amir with Heights High School, and I just wanted to ask, where would you direct somebody who either wants to add or fight existing policies that they have in their school that they might not like?
So Cleveland Heights just now got a mayor elected system now, so they do still have government. They also have a school board. So first I would say find out when the school boards are meeting. After you find out when they meet, go attend the meeting to see actually how the process works. Find out if it's somebody on the school board that you can sit down and just have a off-the-line conversation about some issues that you're dealing with. Then I will also talk to your Cleveland City Council person to be able to figure out how they can help make sure you're in the room to make those views heard. And then actually, you start taking action, because therefore you start to understand the process from going to the meeting. You start to get some support from somebody possibly on council that you have these issues, but also you want to bring your parent involved to be able to have that backing, because you want to have that additional support to be able to get your message heard.
My name is Trinity Hunter. I'm from Cleveland Heights High School. And my question basically was, what's your job like on a day-to-day basis?
My job is it's flexible and it's virtual and it's it's a typical, it could be a typical 9 to 5, but I set my schedule, and I want to preface this by saying though that I've worked years of hard hours, and I am so lucky and blessed to be in the position that I have that does have this virtual flexibility, because I do have kids and I am involved with my kids, and it does give me the space to be able to do the things that I care about outside of my job. But otherwise, it's a whole lot of connecting with people and bringing people together, like this exact room. When I said earlier, find people that care about the things you care about and organize, that's what we do. We find people that care about the things we care about, and we get together and organize them around those topics. So Honesty has a variety of issues groups that we run. We have a higher education group. We have an equity in education. We have a group for religious release time instruction. So these are all working issue groups that we have going at any time. So it's meetings throughout the day. It's meetings with our team and making sure people aren't burning out and that they're staying healthy, and that they're progressing professionally as well.
I'm similar. I just do whatever. Jessica, my executive assistant, sitting right there, put on the calendar, whatever she say do, I just do. I just answer. On top of that, from waking up about 4:30 to try to get rid of my big back, I've got to lose weight this winter before we get bigger, to me working out for about an hour and a half, to then going to City Hall and dealing with committee meetings, residence issues, emails, meeting engagements, conversations, studying, to then getting home at 9 o'clock or sometimes at 5 to try to feed my dogs, to then having to go and get some more emails done. So the day is like a roller coaster depending on what happens, or if something major happened in the community, everything that's on the schedule might be pushed back because I got to address this issue right then and there and then pick it back up. So therefore you may push some things back and try to get to it later on in the week. And sometimes it might be another later on in a couple weeks if you got so many pressing issues. So it varies depending on the day of the week and whatever Jessica, my executive assistant, puts on the calendar.
Hi, my name is Nick, and I'm from Orange High School. As a recently turned 18-year-old who is registered to vote, I was wondering, what do you think is the best way to reach the 68% of the population of 18-year-olds in Ohio who are not registered to vote?
Orange. The way you have to do it, I believe grassroots activism is still the #1 tool to get things done. I know everybody believes social media and all this is the #1 marketing tool. No, grassroots, door-to-door, peer-to-peer is the #1 way to get things across. If I have a bad experience at the city club, I'm going to tell somebody else about my bad experience. But if I have a great experience like today, I'm going to tell everybody about the great experience at the city club. So what you have to do in order to get those 68% voting, we got to go door to door, meet folks where they are at, make sure we're talking to them where they are at. Don't try to come in talking with my PhD or my background. We want to meet them where they are at. We want to have that conversation about politics. We want to have that conversation not about the actual way to vote, but also about their voice to be heard so they can be able to be a part of the democratic process.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I could add to that is the peer-to-peer. How do we make it cool to vote? And that's an honest, genuine question. And these are the things that we need to be listening to you about. How do we make it cool to vote or to care about politics? And going back to a question from earlier, I was still thinking about, I'm sure a lot of your schools have student leadership councils or student advisory councils. If they don't, maybe that's a good place for you to start, is building one of those in your school. But how do we get those groups more engaged? And I know you can't answer, you don't have a microphone on, but I would sure like to hear, how do we make it cooler? I don't think it's a cool thing to do, and maybe that's part of the culture shift that needs to happen. I don't know.
I'm John Vonhoff from Lutheran West. Doctor, you mentioned near the end about if the adults would just be ready to get out of the way, the kids are ready to take action. Mm-hmm. And the world does kind of view kids as just not having much of a voice in politics. So what can we do to fight the stigma of irrelevance? The world doesn't really see us. How do we get them to see us with a voice?
Yeah, I think, and I'm thinking about something you said earlier about people hanging on to their positions for forever. There is definitely a generational issue where some people think, well, I've got this life experience, so clearly I know better than a young person, and that's not always the case. Yes, life experience means something, so yes, we'll give life experience its credit, but young people do have that, like I mentioned, that energy and that creativity and those new ideas. And as we were talking about before coming out here, when systems are challenged and people say, well, that's the way we've always done things, that is like a dagger to my soul to hear people say that, because it's not, that is not the way that things should be done. And I think part of it comes from that 68% number. I think when youth can get other youth to care a little more and get that 68% down, that is when you show your power. That is when you show what you can do. And that's what needs to be taking place, is you have this power, you have this energy, you have these ideas. Now cultivate that, get it together, organize, get those 68% numbers down, get your people voting, get the issues out there, go and testify. Those are the ways that young people start to say, we are here, this is our world, stop screwing it up, and let us do something with this.
Hi, I'm Vera from St. Joseph Academy, and as a young person who does their research and is really passionate about politics, how can I appear as a peer to my parents or adults in my life, to be seen as an equal, and what advice do you have so I can appear more mature?
That's a great question. And I feel like you're my daughter standing there asking that, so my heart is impacted as a parent, I have these kinds of tough conversations with my 14-year-old, particularly, about issues, things that she cares about. And I will say there is always that element in my mind of, well, you don't really know yet, you know? And that's on me. That's my problem, that I'm approaching the conversation from that way. I would just encourage you, like I said before, you know what you're talking about, and maybe if it's a situation where your parents have the opposite opinion, which is happening, there are these divides that are happening where parents are thinking one way and kids are thinking a different way, and values are coming into question, and how can we have the kinds of good relationships that we want to have when we fundamentally disagree on important things. I think that I would encourage you in yourself to know that you believe in what you're saying, you have the information, and maybe there are things that you don't agree about, and maybe those aren't areas to dig into, and stay in the areas where maybe you can have productive conversations with your parents specifically. But keep going, keep having the conversations. I mean, and for the parents in the room, it's important for us to be listening to our kids, not just hearing them, which I sometimes do when I'm like, yes, I know, hang on, I'm on my phone, but listening to what they're saying to us, because again, they're coming to us to have those tough conversations, and we need to be there for them while they're working through those thoughts.
And just to add to that, I would say have that conversation with your parents and say, when do we have that safe space conversation where I can present my views, my facts, my research, and that's like that day. So whether it's Wednesday evening, if it's something I want to talk about, can this be our safe space where I can present what I'm thinking about, why I feel this way? So therefore, it's not also happening at a time where your mom or your parent is on the phone and they're dealing with some other things and they're not really hearing you, but also making sure as leaders, as parents, as mentors, that we listen to understand, not listen to just respond. And sometimes that response part, you miss the whole message of what this person is feeling. And if you got facts on some things and you got enough data about it, man, I ain't gonna change your view. I want you to understand this is what we live to learn sometimes, even if it's right or wrong. But as long as you did your research and have some accurate information, not just something your cousin sent you because it was nice, but more information, more detail, be able to have that space so y'all can have that good dialogue, healthy dialogue.
Not at 10 o'clock at night.
No, not at 10. No, I gotta get up at 4.
That's when they want to that's when they want to come and talk. No, not 10.
Save it for Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday is 7.
At 7, so I can really give you my undivided attention, so you can be able to have that. So have that conversation with your parent to see if that's something you can try to do and say, I just want you to hear me. Before you say anything, let me say everything I got. Take your notes. Hear what she say back or say that, and then it may give you something to go get some more research. So when you see next week, like, I'm ready now. Oh, I done figured this out. I want to hear what you say. And I think that help have a healthy discussion on politics.
Hello, my name is Logan Saliga. I am from the Gerson School, and I would like to talk about one of the main, in my opinion, things about this election and how abortion bans could actually affect votes and how that could sway voters to vote for certain parties.
Is there a question?
I would say first thing first, I'm gonna get in trouble, but it is what it is. We were youth in politics. We say we gotta say. I don't think anyone has the right, especially for a male, to determine what a woman chooses to do. At the end of the day, and what I mean by that is, if you ain't ready as a male to produce and raise a family, you might want to question what you're doing with that person, because therefore there's things that comes with having sex and unprotected sex and things like that. So those are some things you have to be cautious of, but I don't think as a lawmaker, as a policymaker, it's my job to determine yay or nay. I need to just stay out of it and worry about what's going on in my household.
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm a student at Cleveland Heights High School. And they say that teachers are the most important, but they are powerless compared to administrators. Yet they are the facilitators of education. So my question for you is, what can students do for them, for the teachers?
Do to help your teachers? Oh boy, first, that's a wonderful question, and I'm glad that you're thinking about it. Wow, but there's a piece that I wanted to take that you mentioned. You said something about teachers versus administrators. And I, as a previous administrator, I just want to say that a good administrator uses a shared leadership model where teachers are empowered in their buildings.
Yes.
So there's that. But as far as helping your teacher, as a previous teacher, I think communicating with them when things are going on and you're just sitting in class and you're tired or you've got that bad attitude or whatever is happening, communicate with them. Don't set up a system where you and your teacher are butting heads, because that is not good for anybody. It's not good for anyone in the class. I just encourage you to reach out, talk to your teacher. That's the best way you can support them, is by being there. Being in school is first. Be there and communicating with your teacher when you have needs.
Thank you all for joining us at the City Club of Cleveland for our Youth Forum Council panel on Youth in American Politics, Shaping the Future. My name is Ria Isias, a sophomore at Solon High School. Thank you again to our panelists, Dr. Christina Collins and Councilmember Richard Starr, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. I would also like to recognize all the schools that have been represented in the room: Andrews Osborne Academy, Benjamin Franklin School, Brush High School, Cleveland Heights University Heights School, Collinwood High School, Fair Project, Lakewood High School, Laurel School, Lutheran West High School, Orange High School, St. Joseph Academy, Shaker Heights Innovative Center, the Gerson School, and Wycliffe High School. The Youth Forum Council would also like to thank our sponsors: Martha Holden Jennings Foundation, the George W. Codrington Charitable Foundation, AT&T, Nordston, and the Doris C. Michalski Trust for your continued support. If you enjoyed today's forum, we invite you to save the date for our next forum on Wednesday, November 13th, where we'll be discussing the impact of racial inequities on educational disparities. For more information on this forum and how to reserve a table for your group, please visit cityclub.org or contact Ariana Smith. That brings us to the end of today's forum. Thank you, panelists, students, and City Club attendees. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.